The Wikileaks founder, Julian Assange, is just over 2 hours away from landing in Australia following his release from prison.
Well, after travelling to the Northern Mariana Islands, Mr Assange was sentenced by Judge Ramona Manglona to time served due to his time spent in London's Belmarsh prison, and so was allowed to walk free. OK, this ends years-long battle by the US to try and extradite him to face 18 charges for releasing sensitive documents into the public domain. We've now got Julian's brother, Gabriel Shipton, to give us his reaction to this. Gabriel, did you ever think you'd see this day?
Oh, yeah. Not until about a week ago, actually. I mean, I had faith that eventually Julian would be free, but I mean, not in this fashion. It's just been wonderful. I've been speaking to people back home in Australia, and there's a celebratory atmosphere in places like Sydney. Someone told me it feels like Christmas. So, you know, I think there's a jubilant feeling throughout Australia, as well as all the people who will be celebrating tonight once Julian is back on home soil. It's been a huge effort. Many millions of people around.
What does it mean at all? What are the restrictions going to be placed on him from here on in, if any?
I have a few issues with this signal. Oh, he's back? Fantastic. Gabriel, I'm not sure if you're able to hear us.
Yeah, he's a free man. He's a free man, no restrictions. The judge said time served. There are no other charges that are anticipated. So yeah, he's a free man, free to do whatever he likes in Australia, free to travel wherever he wants. It's a good deal for Julian. So
you were obviously privy to some of the negotiations going on behind the scenes. If you started to get the impression that this might happen about a week ago, it came as a surprise to us, of course, as we were in the dark to all of this. What changed in order for the US to suddenly drop 17 other charges? He clearly was happy to admit violating the Espionage Act as the price for his freedom. But, you know, what did those negotiations entail?
Well, I believe it was the UK courts. Julian had a hearing approved for the 9th and 10th of July, and the High Court approved that appeal based on the fact that if Julian was extradited, that he would not enjoy the same freedom of expression rights that he was entitled to in the United Kingdom in the courts in the United States. And so I believe the US Department of Justice was actually afraid of receiving a loss in the UK courts, that the UK courts would actually stand up for freedom of expression rights because of what it meant for everybody in the UK and around Europe. If they were to extradite Julian, it would mean that anybody in the United Kingdom could be extradited and not have their freedom of expression rights reciprocated if they're in the United States. So I think it was the UK judges, as well as the Australian government, who was able to come in and negotiate all those little bits and pieces, like travelling to the Mariana Islands instead of the US mainland, that really made this deal possible.
And Gabriel, you've been in the studio a number of times and talked about your brother's plight, and you'll be aware, of course, that for everybody who is celebrating his release today, there will be many who will say that this is an aberration, that this is a miscarriage of justice, that this is a terrible man. You talk about him being free and, you know, no restrictions on his freedom, but there will be concerns about his security, won't there?
Yeah, so he's going to a remote location now out in Australian countryside where he can rest and relax. I believe there will. I think he'll be safe in Australia. He has the overwhelming support of the Australian public, and he's a hero in Australia. 70% of the population wanted the government to intervene and bring him home. So that kind of support, I think, will protect him against any future prosecutions, but also that the US has said that they will not prosecute him for anything else that happened before the day of this plea deal. And the security state, actually, James Clapper, who is within the intelligence community in the United States, has said that he is satisfied with this deal, that Julian has served his time, that they couldn't really expect to get more time served out of Julian, and they have this precedent now established that they can prosecute people under the Espionage Act for publishing truthful information.
Well, Those are the protections in place, but can you protect him against himself, Gabriel?
Well, Julian is a much older man now. He's been detained one way or another for the last 13 years. And I think he's ready for a slower lifestyle. He's got 2 small children. He needs time to rest, time to recuperate, time to heal from this ordeal that he's been going through. He has health conditions that have been exacerbated by his time in detention. But really, I think this is a time for celebration. We're looking forward to having Julian at home, kicking back, having a beer with him, just having a chat and, thinking about simpler times ahead. This has been a real hard slog for our family, and, we're really glad that it's over.
Well, we can see that joy on your face, Gabriel. I don't know if you've had a chance to speak to him. I'm sure he's been very busy the last couple of days. But as and when you do, I'm sure that will be a joyful moment. And has he been reunited with his kids yet? Because I know he's not been with them outside of incarceration ever. They were born whilst he's been going through all of this.
Yeah, well, he actually has seen them inside the prison, so they've only known Julian as a prisoner. So they'll be excited to see Julian. He hasn't touched down in Australia yet, so he's pretty close. So there you go, you've got the flight tracker up there. So he is very close to touching down in Australia, and once he does, he'll be able to see his wife Stella, my dad John. I even spoke to my daughter, and she couldn't believe. She's like, "What? We can go and see Max and Gabriel, my cousins, and Julian in Australia?" She couldn't believe it.
There we go.
So,
well, it's true.
It's a special moment.
Gabriel, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you very much. Gabriel Shipton, who's Julian Assange's half-brother. Thank you.
I was reading in one of the papers that there's an estimate of £5 million of British taxpayers' money spent on either having him in a high-security prison, his court costs, the security around the Ecuadorian embassy. So just, on that note, the fact that he's no longer our financial responsibility, I'm sure is a relief to taxpayers anyway. Over to the Australians now to foot that bill for the foreseeable. But £5 million, it's been quite expensive. Let us know your thoughts. gbnews.com/yourself.